I want to talk about the beginner's mind as a conclusion. In my own path, the most important thing that I have learned is not really all these concepts, not really all the coherent information about reality. These things have been really fascinating to me to a degree. Then I have learned from experiences many things. You see, I've had mystical experiences, I've had dark nights of the soul, I've had all these things that we categorize as experiences. And all of them have taught me different things, have shown me different aspects of reality and so on. But nothing really compares to what, again, I would use the term beginner's mind, which is very known in Zen. But in my own experience, this beginner's mind is a way to humble yourself, to continuously humble yourself in the face of knowledge, in the face of experiences, in the face of achievements. The reason is because our mind has a tendency, and we have been cultivating this tendency for decades. This tendency is to associate itself with that which is experience, therefore creating the ego, a false identity, a wrong idea of reality, of selfhood. And if we don't pay attention to it, it reverts back to its original state of feeling comfortable within the known. That is because we have acquired so much knowledge. I'm very particular to say this because I know that in my own experience, as reading The Law of One and reading other texts, but especially because there is a synapsis, you would call it, between, I'm going to say, knowledge and recognition. So you know things and suddenly they spark a knowing and say, I know that, that makes sense. See, this process is beautiful and necessary for all of us. You see? So there is experience and there is recognition, right? Just like experiences that are dark, let's say, they produce a different synapsis and it makes us feel down, depressed, and these negative emotions because we are reacting to it as saying that's not true, and yet it is vivid in my life. The same thing may happen here. If you associate yourself with that connection, then you're in for trouble. You're in for the depressive state of the ego. The mind is very clever to do this because it feels comfortable with the known. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad for it. If it's positive, negative, if it makes it feel like crap or makes it feel glorious. It doesn't matter. The mind has a tendency to associate itself with experience, therefore generating the ego. The ego is this sensation of feeling great and terrible, of feeling proud and I don't even know what word to use, but yes, depressed, down, just unworthy maybe. These are the two ways in which it can validate itself. I'm talking about the ego here. And so a beginner's mind is that one which doesn't know anything, in which it simply is, and I'm not saying don't know as, oh no, I don't want to talk about anything because I don't know anything. But it's an internal thing that you have to keep in check. Notice when the mind is doing this tricky thing of attaching or averting certain things. And that is because it thinks it's real, because it thinks that's the way in which it can deal with reality. It is ignorant of that which is beyond, behind, around. I can't give a specific location to it because it permeates everything. And it's awareness. And you see, awareness has no knowledge. Believe it or not, awareness is simply aware. It has no knowledge of anything. Only the mind has knowledge, retain information. And so a beginner's mind is one which is always humbled. And I'm just going to share my experience. In many cases, my ego, or this tendency to create an ego, has crept up behind me and possess many of the things that I have learned. And over again, I have felt this, it's like a warning sign. And I feel it in my body and my mind as, this is not you. See, this feels, you know it because of the feeling that you're having. It's a feeling of losing. See, that's the key word. You're losing something. I'm not alone in this. Again, I'm drawing from my own experience because that's the most intimate that I have. But this feeling of losing yourself, you feel like you're mourning yourself. There's something about yourself that you're mourning. And then I know that, this is an intelligence working in me, killing, extracting, pulling the weeds out of my garden. And it feels painful. It feels like I'm losing something. In the past, I used to react to this, obviously, within the ego, with resistance. And, I can't accept this. I won't accept this. And, no matter how much I resisted, it would disappear. Because once you allow awareness to awaken within you, you can't fool yourself anymore. And so you can only resist change. You can only resist that which is not needed. But once you have taken the path, it only becomes painful relative to the amount of attachment that you still have to this tendency. So this tendency needs to be worked, if you will, over time. And it does make sense that for the majority of us, as we awaken to our true nature, this tendency, which I said already, has been trained, practiced. We have enacted this tendency for so long. It'll come back. And it'll come back with a force. So becoming ever more aware and skillful at recognizing that will accelerate the process of liberation, which is really the word that is necessary here. Liberation of the mind. A liberated mind is not a mind that has no thoughts. It's not a mind that has no attachments, that has nothing. That is not a liberated mind. A liberated mind is a mind in which that tendency has been worked so much that even if it comes, it has very little force or strength in you. And like I said, the key to this is the beginner's mind, in which you are constantly humbling yourself as you recognize that tendency to try to grasp, to cling to things, whatever it may be, experiences, knowledge, achievements, and so on. That is, to me, in my experience, the beginner's mind, and how we can continue to nourish it. A mind that has no preference, a mind that has no expectations. It simply is. And without that, there is a higher intelligence always working in you. And that higher intelligence, like I said, shows up as pulling the weeds. It'll do it on its own accord. You don't have to be consciously doing this. You allow this. I mean, in Christianity, you would say you allow Jesus in your home and let him do the work with you, of course. I mean, you're always next to Jesus. You're not going to just sit on the couch and Jesus is going to do everything, but you will be present. And you, when I say you and Jesus, I'm talking about the higher intelligence in you, and you as the conscious mind just looking, allowing. You don't know anything. Jesus is the one doing the work. And again, I'm using Christian terms here, or vocabulary, which is, the separate self is you. Jesus is your higher self, your Christ consciousness, all of this, which is within you. Allow that to do the work.